The teen icons who cut up shapes at Reading and Leeds Festival. You know UGLY, you ain't got no alibi? Well, that was popularised by these two leading ladies. Every day I inspire to be like these two. Fearless, brave, strong, iconic. I wanted to spread the word about these two girls so you can be inspired too. This is Daphne and Celeste.
Universal Records had a vision. They wanted to start a UK cartoon bubblegum pop duo with chipmunk-like voices to take over the charts. Bubblegum pop was kind of on the rise. That year we'd seen Aqua by Barbie Girl in the charts, Teletubbies randomly, Mbop by Hanson. We're starting to see groups like Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, Spice Girls, and Universal Records obviously wanted to be a part of that. They ended up ditching the cartoon aspect of the duo, and they wanted to hold auditions in the UK to find two girls with big personalities, but they didn't find anyone that really matched their vibe, so they ended up moving their auditions to the US. They held auditions in New York, where they found 15-year-old Celeste Cruz and 17-year-old Karen DiConcerto. Not 100% sure how to say that one. I looked it up and it said DiConcerto, but that didn't sound right. Over the next year, the two would record their debut album, We Didn't Say That. So they're known for introducing themselves at the start of their songs.
Hi, this is my friend Daphne, and I'm Celeste.
And they were doing that when they were recording the album, and they were asked to make up names just for fun. And one of them was Daphne. And when they got to the US, Karen was told her name was now Daphne, and they were called Daphne and Celeste, and that's where the name came from. In 1999, they would release their first single, Ooh Stick You. It was released with an epic music video, and it didn't do too well at the time, which is really sad. Daphne and Celeste both said that they threw a lot of money in it. They had a lot of famous actors that ended up going to be in EastEnders apparently, and it didn't do too well. It sounds like Universal were really ready. This is kind of what you could call an industry plan. It didn't peak in the US at all, but they weren't marketing in the US. They were aiming to be more of a UK group. In the same year, they would open for the band Bewitched, which I think is kind of a random combination. And Robert Fisk would write for Fiscal Policy. Out of all of the thousands of people there, I'd wager we were the oldest people there who hadn't taken their child with them. So clearly, very much getting a child audience, which I can kind of understand, but I don't know. I don't know where Universal were going with this. It's too children-y at the same time as it's not children-y enough. It's not for kids enough. I personally think Daphne and Celeste would go crazy in 2024. We need a new Daphne and Celeste.
I'm loving the songs! Die! Yes, I will! Very cool! All right?
In 2000, they would release two more singles. Schools Out and UGLY. Schools Out is an Alice Cooper cover, and it peaked in Australia at 96 and the UK at 12. And UGLY sampled the chorus of the song Ugly by Fishbone, which was released in 1985. It's kind of a bit like ska reggae. It peaked in Australia at 40, Canada at 18, New Zealand at 7, and the UK at 18. So they're doing pretty well, but I feel like maybe to Universal standards, not good enough. People complain that UGLY was promoting bullying. Daphne said it's tongue-in-cheek. Everyone is indeed ugly in their own special way. Ugly was in the Bring It On soundtrack. You may recognize it. It's at the end when they're having a competition and one of the other teams uses it. I personally had never heard this song until maybe last year when I found out about these two. I always knew the chant UGLY, you ain't got no alibi, but I had no idea where that came from. And the lyrics of that actually are from the Fishbone song Ugly. And then I guess it was made famous by Daphne and Celeste, but I wouldn't even say that. I think it kind of just turned into a playground thing. That's the only time I had ever heard it. And then I heard it in Bring It On later on, but I already knew it by then. So very interesting. In 2000, they would also play Reading Festival before it was Reading in Leeds. I always thought it was Reading, but no. Picture this. It's 2000. There's a sea of people wearing black. We're ready for our packed day filled with metal, punk, and rock. We've got Slipknot, Eminem, which I guess isn't really rock, Rage Against the Machine, Blink-182. Thousands of people, tens of thousands of people are here. And opening the day for this rock-fueled day of the festival is Daphne and Celeste. How the fuck did this happen? In a recent interview with Mariel Talks Pop, the two told her that they actually love to lie, especially to the press.
That's a great one. That really is.
How did you both come together and how did you get noticed?
My mom adopted her when I was like a little kid. Yeah.
What?
My mom adopted her when I was like little.
Really?
Yeah, we're sisters.
Cool. Excellent. And you get on well? Or is this all a show?
It depends. I mean, we're sisters. You know, we have our good days, we have our bad days. It just depends. Yeah.
So they would tell everyone in interviews that they were just playing the festival. Eventually, everybody just believed it, and the festival reached out and said, okay, well, like, everyone thinks you're playing, so do you want to play? And they did. Apparently, Celeste is a huge Eminem fan, and she's always wanted to meet Eminem. So this was like a way to meet him, and then it just snowballed into actually playing the festival. In all fairness, though, they had a dance stage at the festival, so I have no idea why they didn't put them on there. Like, Black Eyed Peas played the day before, so I have no idea why they didn't do that. I thought maybe they could at least put them on another day, but no day made sense for them to be on. It was truly like the audition that they have for like the X Factor, where the person sucks. It's just for them to laugh. Not that I think Daphne and Celeste suck. I think they're actually so punk, and I wish I was there. They both knew it would be controversial. They've said that they never took themselves seriously, and you can tell in interviews they think it's hilarious that what they're doing, and they're amazing. At this point, they were 17 and 19. So Celeste was 17, Karen or Daphne was 19. And they didn't think anybody would actually show up because why are Daphne and Celeste playing? So they rocked up wearing matching personalized shirts. Celeste was wearing a Who the Fuck is Eminem shirt, and Daphne, I Love Brian shirt in reference to Brian Molko from Placebo. According to The Guardian, they had mocked his thinning hair in interviews. I've never heard of Brian Molko from Placebo. I can't find anything about him being mocked about his hair. I don't know if that's true. That's what The Guardian says, and The Guardian is always 100% accurate. But they would actually be quite mean, I think. Like, I can find quotes. Like, one time they were asked about Christina Aguilera, and they said, she's disgusting and we hate her. I have no idea. What? I don't know. Maybe it had something to do with the Eminem thing, because Celeste was a big fan of Eminem, but I have no idea where that came from. So they opened the day, they're taking the stage first, it's about 1 p.m. They were totally scared, no one was going to show up, every performer's worst nightmare. But 50,000 people came with homemade signs, reading, "Die, bollocks." They could barely start their set properly because they were laughing so hard.
I'm loving the signs! Die! Yes, I will!
For 15 minutes, these incredible, resilient, brave, beautiful, perfect teenagers dodged beer bottles, piss, meat, clothes, and 3 people got together to throw a wheelchair. A wheelchair. Somebody didn't have a wheelchair for the rest of the day. They had to buy a new wheelchair. Iconic. There are a lot of misconceptions that they played 3 songs and left, but they actually played their full 15-minute set, and props to them for that. Daphne said she found the whole thing surreal. Backstage, Slipknot and Rage Against the Machine were coming up to us telling us how hardcore we were. Have to agree. How they wouldn't have stayed out there. It was definitely the best thing we ever did, our crowning achievement. And later, Corey Taylor from Slipknot would confirm this on the podcast Off the Menu.
Daphne and Celeste, yeah. Oh my God, dude. I was out there, I was hanging out with some friends of mine and I was like, who are these people? And they were trying to explain it to me. And then, dude, it was like the fucking seas opened and it just like came out of nowhere. I was like, oh shit. But to their credit, man, they stood there and they took it. Yeah. Because they only did like 2 or 3 songs, but they're like, fuck it, we're gonna go for it. And then I went backstage and dude, they were bawling. They were bawling their eyes out. And I was like, hey, you did something that a lot of people wouldn't have done. You stayed in there, so hold your head high. And I don't know if they fucking cared what I said, but they did it, you know.
So I actually don't remember when I found out about Daphne and Celeste. I think like the very first thing I had ever heard of them was them being booed at Reading and Leeds Festival. And it was so iconic. And I watched all their music videos and they're so good. I genuinely want to see that again. I think in this year, they would do so much better than they did then. It was the wrong place, wrong time. They really had a lot of potential, and I think maybe if they didn't play the festival, things could have gone a lot differently. But I strive to be like these two. They are so resilient. I could not take what they did. They were laughing and smiling on stage the whole time. In interviews after, you can see they look a little bit defeated, especially Celeste, but like, she was 17. I was in school at 17. I could not have taken that.
At the Reading Festival in one piece, girls. Yes. It was good. I had a smile on my face the whole time. I thought it was so good. That was a good effort. I did see the big grins despite this tough thing, Chuck.
I would have stood there and cried in front of everyone. They said that their families were off stage crying, which is just so tragic. Believe it or not, Daphne and Celeste would be dropped from their label shortly after this, and we barely heard from them ever again. Post being dropped from their label, Celeste would try out acting again. She starred in a movie called Brooklyn Bound and an episode of 30 Rock as woman number 1 and an episode of Cupid as a teenage girl. Did you know that Celeste grew up in a Puerto Rican American family and her trademark is her pretty hair? Daphne would move on to more behind the scenes of film and TV, and she both wrote and executive produced Recovery Road, an ABC TV series in 2016, scored pretty well online. And it was starring my girl Grace from Skins, if you've seen that season that everyone hates but I loved. And Scam, she wrote and executive produced 5 episodes for in 2019. 2015, Max Tundra, a writer and producer, would reach out to the girls to make an album with them. The same year, they released their first single, BB, which stands for Basic Busker, which is apparently about Ed Sheeran. They have denied that. It got amazing feedback. I can't really comment on it. It's totally not for me. It's a really unusual genre, and it sounds nothing like their first album, obviously. It's interesting. I think it's really interesting that the same people that liked their first album also like this one, because they sound absolutely nothing alike, in my opinion. In 2018, they released their second album, Daphne and Celeste Save the World. I believe they only sung on the album and everything else was done by Max Tundra. They have really good voices. They do a great job on the album. I would best describe it as like pop trap. I'm not great with genres in general, but I cannot figure this out. I would listen to it though. In 2020, Daphne and Celeste would both give birth to their first children just 2 months apart, which is pretty cute. They're still doing live shows with Max Tundra, performing a mix of their first album and their second album. And I've seen videos. Max Tundra's not really playing exactly what is on the first album music-wise, like instrumental-wise, but I totally get why he wouldn't. In May 2025, they'll be playing Mighty Hoopla in London, which will be 25 years since the incident. But this time, they'll be playing with Kesha and Venga Boys. They're not on the same day though, so maybe there might be another incident, but hopefully it doesn't happen again. But the girls look so fondly back on these memories. They were such troopers. Not even like My Chemical Romance got booed off the stage. They left the stage. These girls played every single song they were going to play. To be fair though, they only had a 15-minute set, but they stayed out there the whole time. 15 minutes is a long time to stand there and sing in front of 50,000 people throwing bottles at you, and wheelchairs and meat. These people had forethought. They were like, okay, we're going to fuck them up today. They brought meat. They peed in bottles to throw at them. Children, basically. I just wish I knew what they were trying to get at here. Like, were they trying to be the new high five? Were they trying to be funny? Because Daphne and Celeste seemed to think it was a joke. Anywho. Well, that's Daphne and Celeste for you. I hope you enjoyed. Kind of anticlimactic at the end, which is a shame. I wish they would do a tour of their first album. I would love to see that. Maybe I'll have to go to London. If you're in London, please go see them. So yeah, Daphne and Celeste. I don't know what to say. Daphne and Celeste, please come to Australia. That's what I'd say.